Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Oeco podcast, where we're talking about architecture and architectural theory and practical things and many more stuff and many more things. I'm currently starting with my master's degree in architecture, so I, a few days ago, finished my bachelor's degree. And I wanted to get more knowledge. I wanted to get more, more theoretical knowledge and more, also book knowledge. Because I do have a lot of practical knowledge and practical expertise. But I still think that there is just so much information out there in form of books or podcasts or videos or whatever it might be, that it is really difficult to consume all of it. And this is why I'm starting this podcast here, to learn myself, because there's just so much to learn, and also to share it with everyone else, and hopefully create something and create a space here where we all can learn something and where we all can get something out of, or something. I don't know. Anyways, maybe in the future there's also going to be some video stuff, but for now we're gonna do audio only. I've had a podcast for 3, 4, 5 years or something, with, I guess it is at this point 2,000 episodes, but I do really want to dedicate one to design/architecture in general. And today we will go through a summary of the book 101 Things I Learned in Architecture School. I guess this is one of the very of those that are being recommended just so often, and I've seen it and I've had a quick look into it, and I thought, well, maybe it is a really good start to start this podcast. I will go through just many websites, because there's just so many websites that apparently provide somewhat of a summary of this book, but I'll just choose one of them and then we'll go through it and see whether this was enough or whether it wasn't, and whatever. So in the end, it probably is also some kind of archive for architectural knowledge and or design knowledge. So that is a bonus too. I've actually looked it up once, and I might just go through this one. It is on the newbookrecommendation.com site. So if you're Googling for a summary of the 101 Things I Learned in Architecture School by Matthew Frederick, then you're probably also going to find this one. So let's start. This book was published in 2006, apparently. I assume the first edition. There might be some other and or newer editions at this point, and it is rated fairly high with 4.08 with 5,516 ratings, which is actually quite a lot, and also a lot of reviews I'll see there. It's also not that expensive too. Synopsis of 101 Things I Learned in Architecture School. Essential lessons for architecture students. 101 Things I Learned in Architecture School by Matthew Frederick distills knowledge into essential lessons for aspiring architects. The book covers a range of topics, from the simplest aspect of drawing a line to intricate color theory. Frederick's concise insights make this book a must-have reference for students. Each lesson presents real-world applications of architectural principles, making them easily digestible. It serves a personal guide that students can keep at their desk or in their backpacks. Humor and wisdom combined. So apparently it is also very humorous. I'm not going to go through this one paragraph here. So I might actually have to go through, or I might not have to go through another book summary, because this is indeed just a summary or somewhat of an overview. Previews about the author, conclusion. So we might actually have to go through another summary. yeah, let's take this one from the shortform.com site. Actually published on January the 13th, 2025. So it is, actually quite new. Mastering architectural drawing techniques. After reading 101 Things I Learned in Architecture School, you'll understand that architectural drawing is a precise and purposeful discipline. Let's explore the methods that bring architectural vision to life. The art of line drawing, or of line work. The intentional characteristics of lines within architectural drawings are crucial. Lines serve various purposes and are implemented with accuracy. Architects use distinct and firm strokes to convey precision and resolve, crafting sketches with deliberate precision that instills their drawings with an aura of exactness. But I think, on the other hand, having a line that is not really exact, that is more or has more of a sketch vibe, can very often also have somewhat of a charm, I'd say. It can also be really nice, and I think quite often it might be somewhat of a something like both of it, like having some really precise lines and also some really wonky lines, if you will, and then the combination of those two things really makes a drawing. Maybe I'm just speculating here, but I don't know if on Spotify there are some comments, but if there are, you can also comment your thoughts on all of those ideas and the rules and or guidelines that I'm going through today. Creating precise intersections. Lines are meticulously extended just beyond their intersections to preserve precise angles at corners, ensuring the design's deliberate sharpness remains unaltered. This technique helps bypass the creation of rounded corners when lines overlap. Achieving clarity through line quality. Architects favor creating with fluid, accurate lines instead of multiple hesitant marks that cross one another. Before finalizing the drawing, architects or artists may use subtle lines for direction, which stay visible and add character to the illustration. And I think it's also really a question to ask oneself with every drawing: what is the character that I want to convey, and what is also the information that I want to convey? What is what I want to say? What is really important about this drawing? This on one hand really gets rid of definitely a lot of fluff, and it makes it also really precise. I think precise thinking is really useful, and also precise writing is really useful, both as a skill. And so I think also really precisely being able to show an idea in form of a sketch or in form of a drawing is definitely a skill to pursue. Understanding figure-ground relationships. In design, elements are frequently referred to as figures, while the space that encircles them is themed the ground. A distinctive geometric or architectural characteristic is prominently displayed, surrounded by the area that defines the enclosing space. The principle of figure ground underscores the importance of giving equal attention to both the figures and the spaces they form through their arrangement. One might also think about negative space, like when having multiple different figures or multiple different objects. What does the space in between of them create in terms of quality and or in terms of figure itself? Is it pleasant? Isn't it pleasant? Should it be pleasant? Shouldn't it be pleasant? Definitely also some questions to ask oneself. Developing detail hierarchy. A meticulous progression of details in life's architectural representations on paper. Start with broad schematic compositions and gradually add specifics. This method guarantees consistency throughout the entire design. Remember that focusing excessively on details should not compromise the unity of the overall design, which I think very often is quite a good way to make a project seem better. But in the end, if the overall context or the overall shape or the overall feeling of a certain project isn't on point, whether it is up to your standards or up to your professor's standards or whatever it might be, adding more detail probably is not going to help. So sometimes I think one has to ask oneself whether also certain parts of a design or certain parts of a building, so to speak, are really necessary, because quite often they aren't. And therefore it might be smart or interesting at least to go with this precision aspect of architecture, and maybe just deleting those things and see how whatever you've created now feels. Is it better? Is it worse? And is it really this detail that you should be adding, or is it something else that you should be adding? Spatial design fundamentals. Understanding spatial design is crucial for crafting meaningful architectural environments. Let's explore how spaces are organized and how geometric shapes create unique atmospheres. Positive and negative space. Designers must understand both the components that enhance a building's existence and the significance of voids within their creations. Primary spaces are crafted for human activities, while negative spaces promote movement and pathways. For example, in malls, department stores represent positive spaces, while corridors create negative spaces that enhance commercial flow, and maybe also should enhance commercial flow in that respect. Urban versus suburban space. Suburban structures often fail to contour surrounding voids, leading to undefined areas. In contrast, urban buildings can shape adjacent places, courtyards and squares into meaningful public spaces, which I think is also quite interesting. Is this certain plaza really good or really bad because of the plaza's shape, or because of its surrounding and the boundaries that it already has? So when creating a building, maybe also thinking about the context, not only in terms of conceptual ideas or conceptual thoughts, but also geometrical thoughts. And or maybe does thinking about that actually improve the project or improve the drawing or improve this design that you're working on, and or not? Sometimes maybe it might be interesting to contradict those two things, having a surrounding area that has a certain figure, and then having this plaza in between those buildings or those figures that might be having a different shape as a contrast. Creating atmospheric design. Architecture goes beyond constructing buildings. It is about creating environments that evoke specific emotional responses. The concept of genius loci, or a location's distinct essence emerges through unique architectural character and sensory qualities. Sensory qualities probably being, I'm just assuming here, feeling something, hearing something, smelling something, and so on and so forth. I think we all know certain places that we really enjoy, and maybe thinking about those and trying to figure out why this is the case might be a great exercise to go through. Because, at least for me, it often is about light, having enough light, and maybe having this very atmospheric light. It's also about plants, it's about vegetation there. But I guess it's also important to consider like the proportions, and in terms of, do I really need like this much vegetation or this much light, or is it just like this this balance of having this light and having this shadow and having this vegetation and also not, that really makes this place have this certain feeling that it has. The power of geometric forms. Different geometric shapes instill unique emotional and dynamic qualities within spaces. Squares evoke solidity and repose. Rectangles suggest directionality and progression, and circles create cohesion by maintaining consistent connections with adjacent points. So maybe having a rectangle as a plaza that should be a place where people are doing whatever, might be a place of community. Maybe it is therefore not too smart of an idea to use a rectangle, since there probably is always somewhat of a direction there. The design process. A successful design starts with a robust, cohesive idea. Inspiration can come from various sources, including philosophy and politics. When designing architectural elements, emphasize and reinforce the building's core concept. Embracing flexibility. Be prepared to abandon unsuccessful plans and start anew. Understanding when to adjust or maintain a previous decision is crucial to the architectural design process. Every design component should fulfill various purposes and convey different meanings. For example, an effective stairway facilitates movement, provides gathering space, adds artistic value, and aids navigation. Even though I believe that sometimes it might not be too smart to give too much meaning to those singular elements, because in the end they all should work as a whole. And when I'm trying to give one staircase or one stairway so many different meanings and so many different objectives, I first of all might forget about something that's actually quite crucial. And on the other hand, is this really necessary? Or maybe it's, of course, very interesting and probably also very crucial thoughts to have. But does every staircase really have to have artistic value, or do I have to provide gathering spaces instead of maybe having those corridors or other gathering spaces, and then really making those stairways or staircases places of movement solely, and then having a really precise direction where they should lead, and whatever, maybe also the complete opposite. So I really am not sure about this one. Working with constraints. Constraints often inspire creativity. A challenging site can lead to innovative solutions. Steep slopes might inspire dynamic elevation changes, while narrow spaces could create engaging pathways. Buildings should reveal different qualities depending on viewing distance. Design facades that capture immediate attention while rewarding closer inspection. Architectural proportions often reflect the construction methods of their era. Traditional buildings feature shorter spans and vertical windows due to material limitations, while modern methods enable larger and more varied spaces. Maybe also playing with those ideas might be interesting. Having a construction method that is actually meant for really big and enlarged spaces. Maybe using them for smaller ones might give them quite the interesting feel. But I do really find this aspect interesting of facades that capture immediate attention while rewarding closer inspection. Really makes sense. I once again think about vegetation there that might play a role here. Because considering a glass facade, when I get closer, it's just still glass. There might be some scratches or might be some dirt or whatever, but that is quite it. And maybe it is also something for whomever is living in this space or living in this house or whatever we're talking about. Maybe this is also inspiring creativity in a way of always being able to find something in this facade, whether it is a pattern, whether it is some new plants that are emerging from there, whatever it might be. It might also be interesting to think about. And narrow spaces, playing with narrow and wide spaces. And then the last point of this summary, cultural and social dimensions. Architectural design mirrors the cultural and intellectual climate of its time, emerging from social engagement and daily life elements. Architecture serves dual purposes, creating honest structures that transparently convey their purpose and materials, while also crafting meaningful human experiences through cultural storytelling. Building regulations significantly shape our constructed environment. Rather than limiting creativity, these constraints often inspire more innovative architectural solutions within legal and code requirements. In conclusion, successful architecture requires understanding technical drawing, spatial relationships, design processes, and cultural context while working within practical constraints to create meaningful spaces. And I think this part of meaningful spaces is quite interesting. And with that being said, I'm going to end the episode here. I really hope that you've liked it. Check out the description if there is anything at this point, and I'll hopefully see you the next time. So, bye-bye.